We crave it, we fight for it, we build societies around it. Freedom. It's the bedrock of countless national anthems and cheesy motivational posters. But what if this cherished ideal is less a tangible reality and more of a collective hallucination? What if true, unadulterated freedom is actually impossible? Here's the fundamental problem. Freedom, by its very definition, depends on agreement. Your right to swing your fist ends at my face. Your freedom to blast death metal music ends at my need for peace and quiet. Every single freedom we enjoy exists because, at some level, we've collectively agreed to its boundaries. This sounds simple enough, but therein lies the rub. Humans are messy, complicated creatures with a dazzling array of opinions, desires, and values. Getting everyone on the same page about anything, let alone something as fundamental as freedom, is about as likely as herding cats on roller skates. We're taught to celebrate individuality, to be unique snowflakes dancing to the beat of our own drums. And while that's a lovely sentiment, it directly contradicts the very notion of a society built on consensus. The more we emphasize our differences, the harder it becomes to find common ground on which to build a truly free society. Imagine a world with no traffic laws. Everyone is free to drive wherever they want, whenever they want, at whatever speed they want. Sounds liberating, right? Now imagine the carnage, the endless gridlock, the constant threat of being flattened by a runaway ice cream truck. This is the paradox of freedom. Complete and utter liberty, devoid of any constraints, quickly devolves into chaos. The very rules and regulations we often perceive as shackles are, in reality, the scaffolding that allows any semblance of freedom to exist. But here's the other wrinkle in the fabric of freedom. Even if we could somehow magically agree on a set of rules, human nature has a nasty habit of getting in the way. Power, as they say, corrupts. And even with the best of intentions, the allure of control can be intoxicating. This is where the concept of competing tyrannies comes into play. It's not just about one big brother figure lording over the masses. It's about the subtle, insidious ways in which power dynamics play out in everyday life. It's the corporation exploiting its workers in the name of profit. It's the government censoring information in the name of national security. Every attempt to maximize freedom in one area inevitably leads to its curtailment in another. It's a constant tug of war, a delicate balancing act with no easy answers. Section 4. The price of unfettered freedom. Let's be brutally honest. Absolute unfettered freedom comes at a price. It requires a level of vigilance, a willingness to engage in constant discourse and debate that, quite frankly, most of us are too tired, too busy, or too damn apathetic to maintain. It's easy to rail against the government, to decry the erosion of our liberties. It's much harder to show up at town hall meetings, to organize protests, to hold our elected officials accountable. Freedom, it turns out, is not a spectator sport. It demands active participation, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's uncomfortable, even when Netflix is beckoning with a new season of our favorite show. And that's the real kicker, isn't it? We say we want freedom, but do we really? Or are we content with the illusion of freedom, the carefully curated version that allows us to go about our lives with minimal disruption? Section 5. Freedom, an aspirational paradox. So where does that leave us? Doomed to a life of quiet desperation, shackled by the chains of our own making? Not necessarily. Here's the thing about ideals. They're not meant to be achieved. They're meant to be striven for. Freedom, in its purest form, may be an unattainable paradox. But that doesn't mean we should abandon the pursuit altogether. It means we need to be honest about its limitations, to acknowledge the trade-offs inherent in every decision we make. We need to be willing to have those uncomfortable conversations, to challenge our own assumptions, to constantly question whether the price of our perceived freedom is worth the cost. Because the moment we stop fighting for what we believe in, the moment we accept the status quo, is the moment we truly surrender our freedom.